I want to make clear just how ruthless and hateful, I'm using those words advisedly, the woke left activists of this country are. To them, nothing is sacred. Australia Day, scrap it. The Australian national anthem, change it. The Australian flag, replace it. The monarchy, destroy it. Our constitution, racialise it with an Indigenous voice. Their aim is to desecrate, debase and destroy our culture and our institutions. And now it appears the activists are demanding that the Australian War Memorial bow to identity politics. As reported, the Memorial's Governing Council has decided they will have a, quote, much broader, a much deeper depiction and presentation of the violence committed against Indigenous people, unquote. This will include a commemoration for those Aboriginals killed by British settlers in the Frontier Wars. The Frontier Wars? Let me say at the outset, the idea that there were Frontier Wars is a part of what one of Australia's eminent historians, Keith Windschuttle, has rightly labelled the invention of Aboriginal history. Back then, there were no frontiers, no borders, no governing body, and no sovereign Aboriginal nations on the Australian continent. Back then, there was no war between Indigenous Australians and the settlers. Skirmishes? Definitely. Outbreaks of violence started by both sides for different reasons, of course. But there was no war. There was no national violence between Aboriginal nations and Australia, which wasn't even a nation at the time. By the way, when skirmishes did break out, both Aborigines and settlers were killed. Here's an interesting one. The father of the man who introduced AFL, Horatio Willis, was bludgeoned to death by 50 members of an Indigenous tribe in central Queensland 160 years ago, along with 18 other men, women, children and babies. I bet Horatio's story won't be told at the War Memorial's Frontier War commemoration. Then there's the clear declaration from Australia's founding father, the first Governor of New South Wales, Arthur Phillip, that, quote, any man who takes the life of a native will be put on his trial the same as if he had killed one of the garrison, unquote. Phillip's declaration came after King George III ordered him to, quote, endeavour by every possible means to open an intercourse with the natives and to conciliate their affections, enjoining all subjects to live in amity and kindness with them, unquote. This was followed on by Governor Quarry, who established a native institution for Aboriginal children. He settled Aboriginal adults on a farm at George's Head. He gave them seed and tools. He built huts and boats for others at Elizabeth Bay, and he hosted an annual feast for all the Aborigines of the Sydney region. Doesn't sound like war, does it? That's because it wasn't.